Okay, welcome back, guys. This video is going to detail the specifics on how to grab images off the web, put them into Photoshop, crop them to a specific ratio, and then export them to a specific size to be placed on your website. So for this case, this video is leading up to the classroom schedule website that you've been assigned to do. You need a number of images on each page, and you need a number of pages, which is going to equate specifically in the September 2018 school year, 33 individual separate images with separate file names and so forth. So prior to starting this activity, you should have a folder called Images inside your root directory for your Creative 01 project. We did this in a previous class, and if you're just watching as a how-to, then ignore those specifics. Okay, first of all, we're going to go online, and we're going to go to Google. And at this point, you're going to think about images that personify each class by period, or if this were your home page, yourself. If this were a club page, the clubs. I'm going to pretend I have physics period 2. So I'm just going to type in physics and hit enter. I'm going to go to images. And at this time, in terms of copyright and ownership, we aren't going to be hosting this site publicly. Nobody's going to see it. This is just a vehicle to which to learn. But if you were to make a professional site, you need to understand that these images that we are pulling up are intellectual property of the creator. The proper way would be to get approval, notify them, and once you receive permission, you then can use the artwork. That seems like a lot of work. You can also go to Tools, change usage rights, and you could say label for reuse with modification, meaning you can use it as long as you edit this in Photoshop. It will filter out lots of images that you wish to use. But once again, if you're making a site for somebody and you're earning money for it, and this is going to be publicly hosted, you can't steal other people's work. We're not adhering to any of those suggestions for today. As I said, this is just for education. Okay, so I want an image for physics. You need several. I'm going to collect, I like this image. So when I click on this image, take note right here, that is the size, 1920 by 960 in terms of pixels, little dots of color on your screen. The bigger the better. For this specific project, I've asked that you make them 300 wide by 200 tall. Clearly this is much larger, and that's a good situation. If you have numbers that are smaller than what you're trying to create, you're only going to reduce the quality of the original image, and that's not what we're trying to go for. So, rule of thumb, find an image that's much larger than what you are trying to create. It's only going to preserve quality. So we're going to right click once you find an image that you like, and you're going to hit copy. One thing that you notice is that maybe you'll notice is that this is not a 3:2 ratio. It's a little wider than it is necessary, so we're either going to have to crop or shrink, and we're going to go over all those details in Photoshop in just a second. So once again, we right click, you can hit copy image. You can also click on the image and see where it brings you. Sometimes it's blocked. Sometimes it'll bring you to the source image, and then you can click on the source image and you can see its actual size. You could right click and copy this as well. Okay, but I'm expecting 1920 by 960. Okay, so when you copy it, minimize, Photoshop should be open, file new, 1920 by 960. I did not have to type that. When things were copied, it inherits the values, which then you can just say okay, and you'll have a space waiting for you that all you need to do is paste. So you can hit Control V or you can paste. Okay, Control V is the shortcut. When you do that, take note you have a background layer and layer 1. And you should at this time have familiar experiences with layers. We don't have to do anything with layers today. We are just changing the size of this image and making it fit the ratio that we want. So we need to use the crop tool to keep the ratio. So we're going to click this crop tool here. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth tool down from the top. If you don't see that tool, it could be that the slice tool is on. You're going to hold fifth tool down from the top, hold the button down with your mouse, and switch it to crop. By default, I believe crop is the one that's shown. However, someone could have modified the default. Okay, at this point, you can click and drag, and you're going to just get a rectangle. But you're going to also notice if you change its width, okay, we don't know if this is 3 wide for however tall. We need, for every 3 units we go horizontal, we need to go down 2, and currently, that's not, right? 3 times the height or 2 times the width. So we're going to press escape, and we need to set some values. So over here at the top, we're going to put 300, and you're going to go to height, and you're going to put 200. Don't worry about the fact that it says inches, because we are just exporting with a web exporter. Pixels for inches and resolution is not important. Just make sure that it says pixels per inch. Now if you click and drag, I can't grab the sides of it and stretch it out. I can't grab the bottom. I cannot change the shape of this crop tool. I can just make it bigger or smaller, but I can't change its proportions. So if I kind of snap to the corner and drag this down, that's a 3 by 2 or 300 by 200 shape that we would put in our website. But if you can notice, we're cutting things out. So if there's necessary images or parts of the image that you can't cut out, let's say I wanted to get all of these. Well, if I kept it in the 3 by 2 ratio that fit the height of the image, clearly I'm going to have to sacrifice some artwork. For this particular image, it's not that important, but you might have one that it is. So if I do this, it's still 2 by 3. However, the space above and the space below needs to be created from something, and we don't have anything. So what it's going to do is when I press enter, it's going to add the background color that is set right here. So currently mine is white, yours might be something else. If you click it before the crop tool is turned on, you won't get that loud noise, and you also will be able to specify a color. So before we crop, press escape, click the white square, and at this point you can choose up to 12 or 13.2 million colors, more colors than your eye can decide. We're not picking a color. We could, excuse me, I just click on anything I see here and it shows up. We'll talk later at a date about what these actually mean. Or I could put my mouse over, I could sample colors from the artwork. I can get the edge, it's really dark. I can get the inside, it's really light. So I notice the edges and the tops are different in color. So whatever we choose here, it's going to be a solid color. It's not going to look perfect like you see here. But you can get something that's close, okay, kind of in the middle. Say okay. Let's go back to crop. And I can just press enter and I'll get a cropped cut image in the shape that we need. And for most of the times that's okay for what you're doing. But once again, if you have artwork that you must have and it's in an image that's the wrong shape, you're using the crop tool and you're going to make it bigger than the image itself to contain what you need. And now when you press enter, that background color that we just defined will be used to fill in the spaces. It's not going to be perfect, but that's the only options we have at this point. So if I were to press enter, we have this. So now I can save this and put it in my website, and it doesn't look bad at all. I mean, these colors complement the actual image, so it looks intentional, doesn't look amateurish. I centered this, so it looked pretty good. I can hit Control Z, and we're back to normal. Just to show you the alternate solution, this is where we cut things out, and we have to sacrifice artwork. So I'm going to eyeball it like this, press enter. That would also work. So if you're okay with this and not having the blue bars on the top and okay with the missing portions of the artwork, we're satisfied here. And this is the ideal solution, not necessarily where we have the extra solid fill. So I'm going to leave that up to you to decide. But anyway, at this point, we don't need to save this to be opened up and edited later. We just need to export this to go to your images folder. So you're going to hit File, and you're going to choose Save for Web and Devices. It's Alt-Control-Shift-S on the keyboard if you want to use this shortcut. Seems like a really big one, although after you do it a few times, it's actually really convenient, and you'll probably won't go to the menu anymore if you do Control-Alt-Shift-S. And when you're making web pages and apps and things for mobile devices that are designed to run quick and have small file sizes, you must save for web and devices. This compresses the image. So you're going to click Save for Web and Devices, and you're going to get this dialog box. It's going to show you the actual size of the image. So if it's really big, like this one is, it's huge. All right? So what you're going to do is you're going to change this width to 300, because I told you I want 300 by 200 in your website. So when I change it to 300, the 2 naturally happens because there is a ratio here. For every 3 we go horizontal, we go down 2. So mathematically it worked. We got this because the crop tool is what set this for us. Up here, you want to change your selections to PNG 24. You may have a bunch more options because I have an older version of Photoshop on this computer, but select PNG 24. If you see these, what this is allowing you to do, and I'm going to try to magnify this. This may not work, but we'll find out. Okay. So over here, here's our original. Our original was 167 kilobits, actually kilobytes. We go over here, the optimized PNG is 84.83 kilobytes. So it's smaller, meaning it's going to load faster. If I select 2 up, here's my original 176, and here's my 84. And the reason why we do this is so we can see the differences in quality between the two. Okay, I don't see a visual difference, so I could probably reduce the quality if it were JPEG to something less. So now it's JPEG and it's 50, so it's even less than PNG. PNGs are always a little bit crisper. They compress the image differently, and they're a little bit larger in file size, but there's benefits to them that we'll learn later. So we're at 10 seconds at a very slow speed. We can drop this down, and you could change your internet speed to see how fast it will take. And you might think 1 second to load this image is no problem, but what if you had like 30 images on one page? Do you want to wait 30 seconds to load a web page? In the year 2018, nobody waits 30 seconds for anything to load. So people would just opt to leave your site and go somewhere else on the web. So anyway, this is what web designers use to decide how big the images need to be. But for today, no need to think. You don't have to worry about this. But actually, just as a demonstration, for the JPEG that's specified here, I'm going to crank this quality down to a really low. I'm going to go to 5%. It's tiny. Instead of 80, it's 4. But you see the difference in quality between the original, that is 176, to the optimized, file size optimized, to 4. Visually, it's not optimized. It looks horrible, but it's still there. I can recognize it, and if I just need to show you this and make it quick and fast, that's how we would do it. Obviously, we never go down to 5. That seems to be extreme. You usually stay between like 70 to 100. Okay? But that's usually JPEGs, so you're going to switch to PNG 24, and you don't have to change any settings. We're just going to leave it at 84.83. That's our PNG 24. I would leave it, you can keep it as original. We're not comparing 4 different files like JPEG, GIF, PNG, and original and seeing all the different sizes. See, 5.72, 8.5, 84.83. So this is a lot larger. You can see the quality, though, is there. where it's not in these. Okay, so we're going to switch back to the original. Just as explanation purposes, I wanted to go over that. I'm going to unmagnify. And at this point, we're just going to leave it at optimized, and you're going to switch to PNG24, and you're going to hit save. At this time, this is where you're going to put this in the images folder. Okay, your images folder that should be in your network drive, in a web design folder that you made for this class back a few weeks ago, in the HTML assignments folder that you made a while ago as a container for assignments specific to HTML, and then in that folder you should have made, in the recent days, a folder called Creative 01 or 01 Creative, which means this is going to be the first project of your creative abilities. And I realize at this point I'm limiting your creativity because I'm trying to teach you various things. Later in the year, you're going to be able to do all of these things without my direction. So last thing I need to make sure of is you need to label or save your files with simple file names. No uppercase, no spaces, no fancy special characters. One, it may not work, and two, you're not going to want to type that. You're going to have to code this image. And if you create some insane long file name, you're going to have to type that. I don't think you're going to want to do that, and most likely you'll make mistakes and cause yourself more difficulty. So what you want to do, this is physics. So if there's 4 physics images on the physics page, maybe a proper naming procedure would be physics 1. And it's already set to PNG, so don't add the extension. Just hit save in the proper folder that you need to go to. The next image, if you're doing physics again, it would be physics 2, physics 3, physics 4. That's a lot easier to type than some random nonsense that you could come up with. And you want, obviously, the name of your file to give you a general idea of what that image is all about. Okay? So I didn't actually show you where to go in your folders because at this time you should know how to go to your various folders and save. If you need help, obviously, seek me out personally in class. Otherwise, happy editing. You need approximately 33 images. You could probably go up to 35. I'll explain in class later. Have a great day, everyone.